Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net's Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Transmission commencing.
This is Wookiee Radio. Translated for the Wookiee impaired. I like that Wookiee. Your hosts, Ken, Derek, and Mike, bring you the latest news and commentary from the far reaches of the galaxy.
Hold it. Hold it. I said hold it.
Subscribe today on iTunes and Stitcher.
I just assumed it's a Wookiee.
Start listening today, and remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org, or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out and try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. Nope, you guys start over.
Oh, come on. I wanted you to open with Crazy Life.
Crazy Life?
No.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Crazy Life.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crazy Life.
Crazy Life. No.
Cut. I'm
Guinevere.
Yeah, we have Guinevere, Brian, and Henno here. On this week's Crazy Life, we're going to talk about past traumas.
I don't know where that came from.
I have not...
We're talking about trauma anniversary.
I have not stopped recording this. Like, this is all going in the episode. I'm going to put it at the end probably, but it's going in.
Outtakes.
It's too good not to. That was too much fun. All right. Hold on. Let me stop the recording real quick.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as always, we have Hanno and Brian. Hi, guys.
Hola.
What'd it do?
what it is, what it was. Shaking.
Always bringing the energy, Brian. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm here for. That's every podcast I'm on. I'm known as the energy guy.
No, he's known as comic relief on The Crazy Life.
Right. On Salty Language, I am the energy guy.
It's true.
I hadn't thought about that before, but I really am.
You're right. You're right. You're the energy guy.
Tony's nearly asleep most of the time, so yeah.
You're a man of focus.
Yeah. Like, people don't even realize he sleeps through like 90% of the show. I just do an impression of him for most of the show. And when we do the live things, that's actually a horse wearing a Tony mask. I just give it peanut butter so it looks like he's talking.
I kind of was wondering about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Mm-hmm.
High-tech stuff, you know?
Well, since most of our audience is probably too young to get the reference of a horse and peanut butter.
What? Why?
No?
Yeah,
What?
I guess. Well,
Yeah,
they used to
Mr.
do it for
Ed.
Mr. Ed, yeah. To make him talk, basically.
Yeah, but haven't they done other, like, silly,
I don't know.
chewy mouth things?
There's only
Maybe
one.
not.
There's only really one talking animal thing that I've ever liked, and it was Lancelot Link, Secret Chimp. So
That's solid.
Mr.
Solid
Ed was
stuff
okay, but Lancelot Link's where it's at. There's like, it looked like the chimps were like, I don't know, it looked like they were chewing gum most of the time. The way they talked, they looked like they were talking with gum in their mouth. I don't know. Anyway.
Yes, I guess we need to get back on track.
Sure.
Since we started derailed, we need to get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all you, Jen, so.
Yes,
Yep.
it is all me. I get to start the show
Mm-hmm.
because, yes, I was not available last week to be on.
Oh, yeah. How are you feeling?
I am feeling much better. What happens is, not unlike Brian in a lot of ways, I don't have migraines like he does, thankfully. But
amen to
I
that.
do get high pressure sinus headaches. So when there's a pressure system that comes through and there's a significant spike in temperature or drop in temperature, it causes the change in pressure. I can't say the word, so I'm not going to try.
Barometric pressure?
Yes.
Yeah.
The change in barometric pressures.
Pressures, right.
And yeah, messes with my sinuses and gives me really bad sinus headaches.
Yeah.
So it started last Sunday.
For the record, for
and-
those who don't know, I get those too, along with the migraines. It's good fun. Anyway, back to you. I just wanted to make it about me for a
Brian.
minute. I was like, it hasn't been about me for like 2 minutes, and this is I just can't handle this.
Exactly.
My ego's over here just screaming. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Because we know who you are.
Right.
So I spent half a day Sunday I spent in my bedroom, which is a dark room. So
Sweet.
and
Developing some
then I
film.
woke. No.
Oh.
Just developing a headache.
I see what you did there. Waka waka.
And then I ended up calling off work actually on Monday because when I woke up, I was feeling nauseous and all the good things that come along with having a bad headache for a long period of time. So I ended up staying home and taking sinus meds and all that good jazz and drinking my teas. Right. So I am feeling much better now, thankfully.
Excellent.
I started to feel better Monday night, but I was still just kind of out of it because of the medicine and everything. So I couldn't join you guys. But yeah, so the rest of the week was pretty uneventful. You know, things were going pretty smoothly. Nothing too crazy. I've been working on my candy. Every Christmas I make Christmas candy. Basically all chocolate-based items with various things in them.
Like lug nuts, Lego, pretzels, whatever else is on the floor.
Razor blades.
Razor blades, yeah.
Hell, I feel like, yeah, no. I do Thin Mints, pretty much Girl Scout lookalikes. I do Thin Mints and Samoas. And
the Thin Mints blew me away. Do you still do the Thin Mints with the Ritz crackers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are crazy because you know it's a Ritz cracker, but since it has mint and chocolate, it crunches weird because of that. In your brain, the way it processes it is weird because you know it's one thing, but it tastes like something else.
It tastes like a cookie, even though your brain says, no, it's a cracker. It's like, no, it's a cookie.
Mm-hmm.
The Samoas actually are even better than the Thin Mints. I don't think you've ever had any of my Samoas because I've only made them the last 2 years or so. But basically, I do caramel and toasted coconut with a little bit of heavy cream.
Right out.
Melt it all down.
Right out. As soon as you said coconut.
Oh, that's right.
Out.
Forgot you don't do coconut.
Nope.
But you spread it on a Ritz cracker, then you dunk the whole thing in milk chocolate and drizzle milk chocolate on the top.
Interesting.
Very tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Very much like a Girl Scout cookie. And then, I do peanut butter.
Like while we're talking, we're just going to hear like the old police knock on Jen's door. It's boom, 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 boom. It's the Girl Scouts, like their thug team coming to take her down for trying to,
Some copy dog recipes.
Yeah, like trying to muscle into our territory, eh?
Well, yeah. So I do those two, and then I do a bunch of jumbles of, marshmallows and cashews and white chocolate, and then another one of butterscotch and milk chocolate.
Those are the ones I like, yeah.
Chinese noodles with peanuts. I do all sorts of fun stuff. But it usually takes me about 10 hours or so across a couple weekends. So I usually do, 3-4 hours at a time.
Right.
And I decided that this year I stopped doing anything that is being mass produced in the grocery store.
That's a good move.
So
yeah.
I am no longer doing peppermint bark, and I am no longer doing pretzels.
Yeah, that's understandable.
It's just it's not economically worth it because buy it for cheaper. Granted, they don't taste quite as good,
right?
But they're good enough. They'll suffice. So it's just not worth my time and effort. I'd much rather put it towards things that you can't readily get.
Right, like the chocolate-covered Lego.
Yes, like a chocolate-covered Lego.
Like, oh, look, it looks like a Lego, and they bite into it.
Like it was.
I got
you. Psych.
Yeah. I got you, dude. I got you.
Something interesting that I have been kind of wrestling with, wrapping my head around, is where's the line between being proud of what you are doing and talking about it too much and oversharing? Where's that line?
Probably when you start a podcast about it. Probably when you start a podcast about it.
Yeah.
Says the guy with 2 podcasts.
But that's kind of, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, and I'm very proud of my candy. But on the flip side, I don't want to come across as bragging or
boastful.
If
you're boasting about something, I think you know what that feels like.
Yeah, well,
right.
I do struggle with that.
Here's where I think
Mm-hmm.
the problem falls is not so much the line between being proud of what you do and being boastful as much as I think it's along the lines of, like, for me at least, it would be, because the podcast is a good example. I was talking with my therapist about this week because I'm going to make this about me now. But I was telling her how, because of low self-esteem, I don't promote things, even though I'm very proud of what we've done here. And I enjoy, I'm proud of Salty Language, even though it's just silliness, but I still, people seem to enjoy it. So I'm proud of that, but I'm also very much not the person to really promote the heck out of these things. because of what you were talking about. It's like, because it's like, well, I'm proud of it, but I also don't want to be like, every time someone sees me, be like, podcast, 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 and they're like, I don't care, Now, again, I'm, mind reading, but... So for me, it's based in the self-esteem, the low self-esteem part of it, kind of, because that makes me, I think it tilts the scale, where I immediately think I'm being boastful, even though I'm not. Most people who do podcasts promote the heck out of their podcast because that's the only way people find out about it. So,
True.
So there you go.
So I think, this probably is a self-esteem thing because, and it doesn't help that we keep having contests at work. We just had a chili cook-off, and now for our potluck, we're having another contest for best dessert, best breakfast food, best dessert, and best side dish. And we're also having a gingerbread building contest.
Just take pizza.
And we're also having an ugly sweater contest.
Oh, I have an answer for that. I actually talked about this on Salty Language. Just wear a regular sweater.
You made a good point.
Just wear a regular sweater. Yeah, wear a regular sweater because... wear a regular sweater because you'll stand out because everybody else is wearing these things that you can buy at... seriously, GameStop has ugly sweaters now. That's how far it's gone.
I know.
TJ Maxx has got ones that are like Budweiser ones and stuff. So just wear a plain sweater.
The one, well, that's not show appropriate, but the ones from last year that were real, that were bouncing around the internet, with the face drawn on the woman's chest.
Oh yeah,
is hanging, and there's pom poms and stuff to decorate the chest.
Sure, yeah, that's work appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's work appropriate on so many levels.
Sure,
but I'm hoping the sweater that I have is vintage. So I'm hoping
by
that
vintage,
puts it over
she
the
means
edge.
ugly as sin.
It is not that ugly. Just because it has kitty cats playing on it does not make it all that ugly.
No.
It does happen to have all the different colors of the rainbow.
That sweater has no alibi. It's ugly. I like coconut more than your sweater.
I heard your mom said it was ugly.
She actually did. I sent her a picture, and she's like, "Oh yes, that ugly sweater. I know you'll win."
Yeah. In your defense, you've had that sweater way before ugly sweaters were the in thing, which is why, like I said on Salty Language, I'm encouraging people to go to their ugly sweater parties wearing a regular sweater because everybody else's are basically the same sweaters. So you stand out then and be like, "Well, mine's pretty plain and it's not great."
Yeah, I have two actually. I've got my vintage one that I've had for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
That Mom got at a garage sale. So, which takes it even over the top of awesomeness because not only did I have it for 20 years, someone else purchased it and owned it for many years.
Yeah, and then celebrated when they were like, finally someone took this thing off our hands.
So I got that fabulous sweater. And then I also have a llama and sunglasses.
Oh, okay.
Which is one of those that it's pretty standard fare for what's going on right now in the ugly sweater world.
I did find one, I mentioned this on Salty Language too, that I found one that I actually liked, which is there's one I've seen with a T-Rex that's wearing an ugly sweater, and on its arms the sleeves are way too long.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and so, that's it though. That's pretty much, that and the Die Hard ones. Like if someone bought me one that said, now I have a machine gun, I wouldn't be mad at it.
There you go.
Just saying.
My husband says tacos with big bows on them, and the pattern in the background are tortilla chips and avocados and stuff like that.
Nice.
So,
very extra sweater.
It's pretty spectacular. But anyways.
What about you, Hanno? Do you own an ugly sweater and/or support ugly sweaters?
I think I have an ugly cardigan, if I remember correctly.
That's pretty special. Cardigan takes another level.
Is that for like when you do your unplugged sets?
Yeah, and I have a red turtleneck that goes with it.
Nice.
Wow.
And then I wear a silver chain on the outside of the red turtleneck.
Nice, that's a good
the
look.
Ugly cardigan.
Nice. Now you mean hanging out the front, right? Like not down around, but like to where you're wearing it, but you just make sure whatever hangs out the front of it.
The front of it just zips out the front, yeah. So it's obvious that I do have a necklace on.
Right, okay.
And then I've got some plaid slacks to go with it.
Wow, the fact that you called them slacks, bonus points. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's when you're like, I'm going to go pretend I'm kind of like a college professor type thing. Like, let's see. No, that's a salty language comment. All right, moving on.
But ugly.
I'm sorry, folks. We were just all over the place.
Anyway,
so I want to know where the boasting comes in.
Sorry, I derailed us a lot there. Sorry.
So, I've been talking a lot about my candy because it's been consuming quite a bit of my free time, making it and putting it together and packaging it up and all that other stuff. So I've been talking, in the women I work with, we're having quite a bit of downtime, so we talk a lot. And so I've been mentioning, what are you doing? Well, I'm working on my candies and this and that and the other. And then we start talking about what it is and how I make it. And so it's been a focus of our conversation a lot. Ugly sweaters has also been a focus of our conversation a lot. So I'm talking a lot about my sweater and detail and this and that and the other. So I think it's because I've been talking a lot about myself lately. And
there it is.
I'm feeling uncomfortable because I've been talking so much about myself. So, and I am an overshare. I'll openly admit to that.
What?
I mean, I do a podcast, for gosh sakes. It talks about my life. So, quite frankly, I get the fact that I'm an overshare, and I'm pretty comfortable with this. It does beg the question that maybe I should hold back some more than I do. I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Have you had anyone say something to you about it?
Well, the girls jokingly, the ladies I work with have jokingly told me I'm an oversharer.
No. I mean specifically what you're talking about, though.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. And I haven't gotten any of the one time at band camp comments.
Yeah.
Because I do tell a lot of stories as well. So, but I think we're still fairly new enough that they haven't heard most of my stories, so they haven't become bored with my stories yet. So I think we're okay in that front.
I feel like until you hear something, I just keep pushing forward. I just keep doing it.
Just don't worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, not that I would, because, again, I'm not great at, well, I mean, I'm a lot better now. I do talk about myself a lot now. I mean, obviously, I have 2 podcasts. That's how much I need to talk about myself. I had to get on a second one. No. But it is. It's really, therapy really helped me a lot with that because I didn't like to talk about certain things and whatever. Now I'm so just like open, and my therapist said that my last therapist told her, she's like, yeah, he's really forthcoming and really open about what he's going through and all that. So, and I was like, I'm pretty comfortable with it now. And so I obviously there's a line there, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with bragging yourself up a little bit.
That's the setting myself up for failure is also pops in there a bit, because especially when, like, for the candy, I'm going to be entering this contest. I've been talking a lot about this candy.
I'll give you
if
that.
I don't win.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, finally, Jen will shut up now. No. But no, I get what you're saying. I was actually going to say something similar about the sweater. Is like you should have just downplayed that whole thing. Just be like, I'm not really into the ugly sweaters thing, and then just showed up with that. Because the best part is you probably have pictures of you in it in various eras, through the years of you having it, because you have had that thing a long time.
Yes, and I've worn it pretty much every Christmas.
Yeah,
I've worn it at least to one event.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, for the record, Ryan wouldn't be seen in public with me in that sweater. I used to have to bring it with me and change into it when I got to wherever I was going, because he wouldn't let me wear it.
See? So if you listen to Salty Language and you hear my anti-ugly sweater stance, that also is not new. I'm not just coming around to that now. I've always been like, no. Like, let's not.
Happening.
So, yeah. I don't know. What do you agree with me on that, Henno, or do you have a different take on that? Like, I feel like, especially if it is like with me coming from a low self-esteem thing, I feel like I need to do that because it's good for me.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's one of those things where you can try it and see how you feel afterwards.
Right. And if you do
like
notice,
the next time you're in a situation, where you usually like tell a story or just don't. Or here's a better thing: ask about the other person instead, and see how it feels.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And if you leave the exchange kind of going, oh, that felt really good.
Yeah.
Then maybe you're like, well, maybe I'll try that again next time. I think one thing that I find myself doing is someone will ask me, how I'm doing, and I'll go on and on and on. I'll forget to ask them how they are. So I consciously try to keep my own thing short. I keep it to just generalizations unless they ask me something specifically, and that's what I've been trying to do lately more, because I used to be a big overshare storyteller, always have an opinion on every topic. I had the nickname Claven for a while, talking about you're too young to understand what I'm talking about. It's about Cheers, the TV show.
Right.
At any rate. And
hey, Henno, did you know that the first actor cast to play? No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
that's
little known fact.
That's only even remotely funny if you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where I really I know I've shared it on here before, where somebody asked me what they asked me if I play music or something, and I couldn't just say, I play guitar. I had to go on and practically give my resume.
Sure. Show them like your SoundCloud and
whip out the phone and search on pictures and everything. And it was just something that I really wanted to change. I wanted to be okay with just saying I'm a guitar player. Like now, if someone says, what do you do for a living? I don't talk about all the things that I can fix anymore like I used to. Right. I just say I do building maintenance.
Yeah.
And it feels good because it's about for me, it was about, I get from, if you're coming from a place of very low self-esteem where you're too self-deprecating, that it's good to learn to pick yourself up a little bit. I was coming from the other standpoint where I was, constantly, to me, I felt like I was being overly boastful and detailed, and and I really wanted to be that whole idea of, with 12-step groups talk about being just another bozo on the bus. Just being just another person out there in the world, and you're no more, no less than anybody else. And it was just kind of nice to just keep it simple.
That's really crazy, because I know this is not our topic. This is not where we're at, but this is something I kind of want to dive into for a quick minute. That's how I always used to describe myself. I would tell people, because there's a lot of people that went to high school with me that they'll see me or they'll see my name on Facebook or something, and I've had some send me a friend request, and they're like, I'm pretty sure I know you, but I don't kind of a thing. And I'm like, yeah, I was like wallpaper, basically. I was there, but I probably never stood out, because I went out of my way to not stand out. I just wanted to be another bozo on the bus. I just wanted to fit in. That's all I wanted. And now I've gone the other way, which is that I'm like, like, no, I should talk about myself sometimes because, like, with the mental health stuff, maybe it can help someone or, you know, whatever. I was in a Twitter room the other night that, you know, one of the women in there was posting, she's done some really cool t-shirt designs and stuff, and she was posting like a bunch of her new designs, you know, and someone else did, and I was like, geez, I really need to do something, you know, because I have one on our store. And the funny thing is, I think of the 3 or 4 of us talking about it, I'm the only one who went to school to do this. So, you know, but again, that's comparing, so pushing that aside, but it was still, you know, and they were like, oh, you know, they didn't know anything about my art, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I haven't done anything in a while, and I just let it go. And then they were kind of like, so do you have any examples? You know, but that did feel kind of good because also doing that shows a genuine interest. Because if I was just like, oh yeah, I'm an artist, and no one says anything, you just go, okay, whatever. But when they're like, oh, hey, I'd like to see your stuff, you know, it does feel kind of good. But I really should do that a little bit more. Like, I have a link to a Dropbox that's got a bunch of my stuff in it. You know, I can put that link in there. People can choose whether or not they click on it, you know. There's nothing wrong with that. And but that's where my line is it's like, I don't want to do, you know, I don't want to seem like I'm bragging about myself, you know.
That's how I like to take it now, is just to make it part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And if the details of it come out, if I'm asked a direct question or if somebody honestly shows some interest, then I'd take it further. Otherwise, I could just leave it, you know, where it is and try to remember to ask the other person what they do.
Yeah. I think it's tough because it's like with me, it's like I think I'm afraid of overcorrecting, you know, because for so long I went out of my way to try to blend in with people. And now I'm not trying to stand out from people, but I am also trying to show, like, you know, hey, I do have, you know, there are things about me that I should talk about, brag up, whatever. And again, it kind of also goes back to the deflecting compliments and stuff too, you know, like, you know, when people, that I think that was a part of the reason why I avoided it for a long time too. Was because I'd show people my art, and in my head I'm going, you know, this is in, you know, whatever, and other people see it, and they're like, oh, wow, that's pretty good, or whatever, and, you know, of course, I'm just like, meh about it. So, yeah. Anyway, so, I think that was an interesting little dive there, how we've gone 2 separate ways on that same, you know, thing.
Yeah, so I mean that's basically been my week. That's what I've been kind of working on. So who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Yeah, please. I've talked enough. Jesus.
So I had a really good week after. Boy, like when we recorded last week, I thought I was going to die. My stomach was on fire.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So bad. When I got off the podcast, I went running into the bathroom and opened up the medicine cabinet, and I was like, "Thank goodness, there's a whole box of Alka-Seltzer up there." I'm just like dumping them all into large glass of water. And
I'm just picturing a bucket with just a bunch of fizz out of the top of it, like almost looks like a witch's cauldron.
Yeah, like I'm in Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory or something. It was bad, but the crazy thing that happened was I actually fell asleep in the most unbelievable. It's just really bad gastritis, and it hurt so bad, and I basically passed out at like 10:30.
Oh wow!
Which was weird. Usually I'm up all night with it, but I was actually able to sleep. And boy, was I worked the next day. I was like, whew, like it was a rough rest of the week. But I got to my men's group on Thursday night, and that was so awesome. I'm so glad I went. Ended up being a real small group. Some of my, you know, guys that I know, few people that hadn't heard about what happened with Eric, you know, that I talked to, and the thing that caught me by surprise was getting into some of the readings and just some of the stuff we have on the walls. It was the first time I was around something that really reminded me of him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just because he's the one that took me through all of it, you know, you know, everything having to do with 12 steps, basically. And so that was the only thing that caught me by surprise. But I had an opportunity to share with, people that are important to me and express my gratitude, because one of the things I'd said for years is I have never lost anybody significant in my life, and I didn't know how I was going to take it. The most significant loss I ever had was a cat. I mean, really.
Right.
And other than that, nothing. So the guys in my men's group have always been a great example as I watched them go through loss and big changes in their life and how they handled it. And I was like, I want that, and so it was an opportunity to express my gratitude. So I was really happy I got to go there. And then,
really quick, Jen, you missed last week. We talked about how Heno hadn't been to his men's group in a while because, what was it, band practice? I think it was,
on the
right?
Same night.
Yeah, you just couldn't.
Yeah.
So we talked about how, he'd been kind of wanting to do that. So I'm glad you were able to go.
Yeah, it was big. And then I got all my Christmas stuff done by Saturday. I mean, done. All the cards sent, all the presents wrapped, anything I need to ordered. Everything was done. And it felt so good for a change, just to have that well in advance, feeling good. I even, got back down to the basement and started doing some, more stamp stuff. And then I also did some more, what do you want to call it? Cleanup of the house or why am I spacing on the word? Decluttering? Yeah. Purging.
Okay.
I had a friend over that needed some things, and I was like, oh, well, I opened up a drawer. It was already set aside, pulled out like some towels and stuff, and I was like, let me get more of these. So I go back in and look, and I'm like opening up drawers, and they're full of towels. And I'm like, okay, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. And they're all nice. It's just my mom will give us towels every year.
Oh, okay.
And then I get into like, how about hand towels? So I opened up, I had 3 drawers full of like kitchen towels and napkins. And there were these ones that were just old and kind of curled up, and they'd never really, go flat again. And it was the best feeling in the world. I literally just picked it up, threw it in the garbage. Nice. I was like,
really
done.
Really quick. And I know you'll be okay with me interrupting here, Heno. We actually just took a bunch, because we had a bunch of hand towels and smaller towels and stuff. We took them to our local vet because they use them for cleanup and stuff with a lot of the animals. So if somebody has extras of that kind of stuff, that's something you could always consider as well. So.
Yep, like my groomer will take towels up to my groomer.
Yep.
And I just started walking through. I was like, okay, what else? Just opening drawers, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, you need kitchen stuff. Well, I don't have a spatula. Here, do you want a spatula? Like, well, I've got 2 others. I think, like, well, you sure? And I'm like, there's 3 here. I have 2 hands.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big cook. But that just felt really good. And then today I went to it was sometime after I got back from California the first time. So sometime in October, and I hadn't seen my chiropractor in a while, and it got bad. Like I woke up on a Friday and I was like, I need to do something. So I called the one person that's local in town. I said, do you have anything available? He's like, I can come right on over right now. I have nobody in the office. So I'm like, I'll be right there. It's like 8:00.
Oh, nice.
Went over there. I went then, the next week, and I've pretty much been going just every week consistently, and it's getting better and better and better and better. And then I went a little bit longer. And so I went in today again, and today I felt good. Like I had no issues. I didn't have to be there. It always helps me in some way. But when I walked out, it's like, okay, I'll go a couple of weeks and then I'll see how I'm doing. But it was just that reminder of when I put things off in my life, when I don't, when I get complacent, when I don't go in when everything feels just fine, and same thing with my men's group.
Yep.
It's like I am not doing the things that keep me healthy physically, spiritually, emotionally, all those things. And it was a great reminder to just, even if I feel like I don't need it, go do it anyway.
Well, and you've
Because
mentioned before,
just-
like on the men's group, even if you don't need it, maybe something you might say might be exactly what somebody else needed that night. And, you know, it's kind of a paid forward type of situation, you know, and you could get something out of it too if they're like, hey man, what you said really, really resonated with me tonight, you know, and then you're like, wow, I didn't know I needed that, you know, so there's a lot of good stuff that can happen there anyway.
I did find out one thing that everybody had a story about Eric. Everybody had some story, some personal thing that he had done for them.
Wow.
And they were awesome stories about the gnarly one was about someone hitting a dog in front of their house and not being able to handle it and calling, and Eric just showed up. It was already winter. Ground was rock hard, and he took and he just, don't worry about it. I got this. Went up onto a hill and just buried the thing.
Oh, wow.
You know, and and it was just like, I don't know if it was her own dog or whatever it was, but whatever it was a traumatic experience. And he did this thing. And the other story was someone that just came into town, knew nobody. You know, he met him at a meeting, and he's like, oh, hey, you know, if, you know, I got these, you know, loaned him a bunch of movies or something like that, you know, while you're, you know, getting used to being here, something like that. Just here, let me, don't even know you. I'm going to loan you, you know, a bunch of stuff.
Wow.
And various things like that. And they were great reminders of who he really was at his core. But I also had the other reminder where, you know, one of my friends that he'd asked several times about, you know, like, hey, how can I get a hold of him? And I'm like, did you ever get a response back? He's like, nope. I reached out several times and I never got a response back.
Wow.
From Oregon. And I went, okay, it was not me. It was everybody here.
Yeah.
You know, and it was sad, but it was also just, sometimes you just need a little affirmation that, you know, it wasn't just you, or, you know, that it was general trend or whatever it is, just to feel more like I'm okay in how I felt about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, kind of a thing. But the hearing the stories were just beautiful. It's like, oh, I love that. Just one after another. So going there was also good because that way I was able to connect with some people that didn't even know, they hadn't heard, you know, whatever, they're on social media or whatever it is. So
wow.
Anyway, that was my week, and looking forward to starting to wear my Christmas hat every day in a couple of days.
Yeah, I figured it was getting close to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very fun. Well, Brian, how about you? How was your week?
Really busy. I've been very productive this week.
Yay.
Yeah, and you know, I talked last week about the whole, like, the only thing that scares me a little bit is when I can feel myself hitting full or empty, however you want to look at it, you know, and I kind of feel like I'm getting there. You know, so I'm probably going to have to, you know, ease off the gas here in a couple of days or something like that for a day or two and just, you know, again, and recharge a little bit. But, yeah, I've been getting quite a bit of things done and whatever, but I've also at the same time, it's like I think it's because my brain's been going so much that I'm having a hard time sleeping again. And I think it's just my brain is so like, do this, that when I lay down to try to go to sleep, my brain is still going, okay, tomorrow, do this, you know? So,
yeah.
So I like last night, I pulled up the notes app on my phone, and, you know, I just started typing what was bouncing in my head, just start typing down I need to do this, get all that out of there. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to open the Waking Up app, even though it's I think it's literally meant for waking up, like doing your first meditation essentially. But I tend to use it to help me go to sleep. So I pulled that up, did a meditation, you know, and just kind of went into, you know, using using that kind of like you were talking about, Heno. It's like I haven't used it in a little while, and using it again, it's like, okay, let the thought come in, let the thought go out. Just don't hold on to it. Just let it pass like it's a breeze, basically, kind of a thing, and that helped. I was able to get to sleep a little easier last night, but that could also just because I, like last night I had sold stuff on eBay, so I was packing a bunch of stuff for eBay. Then I had to, finish posting the podcast and do this and, and some other stuff. And by the time I was done, I think I was just more tired last night too. So that certainly helped. But yeah, nothing really, bad or anything there. I talked about my therapy last week, cause that's right. Yeah. Cause I went the day we recorded. So, having been back in there a couple times now, I'm feeling the same thing you were talking about with the chiropractor and the men's group, which is that you kind of are like, yeah, I probably should have gotten back in there a little sooner. I shouldn't have let that go as long as I did, and I'm glad I'm back in, doing that, because I really feel like I'm in a place where I kind of needed a little tune-up to help me deal with this time of year, as well as, going into next year. So, yeah, that's, I also got, I talk about these stories way more over on Salty Language if you want to hear it. I'm not going to get into them on this, but dealing with, like, people in retail situations, a manager that was rude to an employee, and I actually said something to her, and the employee was super nice. He was new. He tried really hard. And before I left, I went up and told him that he was doing a great job. And I don't know why. I normally am not one to do that, but I think it was just like, I was like, this guy's trying hard, like, and he was an older gentleman, and it was a fast food place. And I don't know if he's doing it just because he wants to or if he needs the money, but it can't be easy to be an older person and go work at a fast food restaurant like that. Like some people that takes swallowing some pride. Some people it doesn't, and you never know which you're dealing with. So I was like, you know what? But no matter what, it's not going to hurt for this guy to hear he's doing a good job. So I went up and said that to him, and I think
that was cool.
It definitely seemed to help him because his manager was being a real something else. We'll just leave it at that.
She wasn't being very kind.
No, not at all. Or patient.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
anything.
Yeah, she was being rude, very much so. But just dealing with slow customer service and stuff. It's a point of. I've said before on here that, like, inefficiency makes me angry when I'm in places. Like, when I can see that there is that there's something they could do to make the process faster, it aggravates me that they aren't doing it. And that all that does is come back to my need to be right. And I know that, and I try really hard not to let it get to me as it used to, but I still, but I had 2 opportunities, this week, where both times things were going slow, I had to wait, whatever, and I just rolled with it, and, mainly, and it was just like, because one time, like, my brother and I were getting a little like, okay, this is taking forever, but then I'm like, what am I in such a hurry to go do? Like, I had nothing else to go do. It's not like, so it's like, what am I trying to run out of here for? So, that's, yeah. But, and then, today I went to a sandwich shop that opened up over here, and I had a coupon that was a buy one, get one, and I had printed out the email and I lost it, and I'm looking on my phone and could not find it. Like, I think it's been deleted because it was a little older. And I went in and I told them, and I was like, is there any way I can look for it? And the girl's like, oh, check your app. And I was like, it's not in there. And the manager was standing right there, and he goes, don't worry about it. He's like, we'll give it to you. So I was like,
wow.
I was like, awesome. And I had just told them also, I mean, maybe this is why, who knows, but I just told them it was my first time in there. So I was like, that's great customer service. Because I walked out of there going, that was cool. My first time in here.
Yep.
They honored something that literally I could have just made up that I had one. They don't know. And it's not hurting anything, really, because, they probably give a ton of those kind of coupons away. But it was cool, It gave me a good experience walking out of the place, and because of it, then you're like, well, yeah, maybe I'll go back, kind of a thing.
Go back, yeah.
I mean, honestly, if they had told me no, I'd have been like, okay, because, that's on me, because I lost it. So, but, yeah. So, maybe it got paid forward a little bit to me for, for the other stuff. So, but whatever. Yeah, so that's been about it for me. I've just feel like I'm just go this week. So I know once Christmas is over, it'll slow down some. So, that'll help. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
Cool. All right. Well, Hanno, I think you have our topic for the day.
I do. We're going to talk about coping with difficult milestones. And this is from Psychology Today, and it's specifically having to do with the Sandy Hook, whatever you want to call it. I was about to call it a massacre, but it's kind of what it was. But yeah. It was a horrific shooting, at any rate. Mm-hmm. These are just steps to deal with anniversaries of traumatic events. This particular article on Psychology Today deals with public ones such as this, but I think it works for any sort of traumatic experience that you've encountered, whether it's just death of a family member, something worse, something that actually happened to a group of people all at once, and little tips to cope with it. This, like I said, it talks about, as someone who studies mass disasters and has survived one, Hurricane Katrina, I understand how difficult milestones like this mark can trigger emotional distress and reopen what we thought were healing wounds. It's common for these year marks to cause unwanted memories and emotional distress among those affected, whether directly or indirectly. In fact, several studies have shown that traumatic anniversaries are extremely difficult for those impacted by mass and personal disasters alike. If you are struggling today with emotional scars, here are some steps you can take to help you cope with challenging anniversaries. And the first one is seek social support. Study after study shows that social support is one of the biggest predictors of resilience after trauma. Don't be afraid to reach out to loved ones and friends for extra support around difficult days. This doesn't mean you have to rehash or relive the events all over again. Only share what you feel comfortable sharing. If you don't want to talk about things, that's okay. Just spending time being with others can be healing in and of itself. I have some friends that have difficult times of year, from death of loved ones, and I love that they're open about it, and they say they I don't want to be alone. Mm-hmm. And they're very careful about where they are and what they're doing on those anniversaries to make sure they're not in a place where it could be even worse for them or trigger things, that kind of stuff. I really admire that. One of the things that I admired most about the first time I heard somebody walk into a group of people and literally say, "I am hurting today," out loud to everybody.
Wow.
And to allow other people to be of service I will never forget when I saw that. It was the most brave thing I'd ever seen. And so if you do have a time of year that's difficult, be upfront, open about it. My own experience is mostly with Sharon. She lost both of her parents in the month of November, so November was always a very traditionally difficult time for her. And when we first started dating, that when November came around, I didn't really know about that. I didn't understand really the significance of it. And then when it came around the next time, it was a little more like, okay, I can be part of this. I can be useful because now I know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it, and actually by having a conversation about it, things became a little bit easier.
Yeah,
So
that's
really,
what I run into, with the anniversary of my dad dying is in October. And, and the thing is, like, my dad's birthday is in August. He died in October. And, and then, Christmas comes around, and it's tougher without him. But those other 2 days, or Father's Day, those things are just, every year it's a real punch in the gut. And usually I'll talk about it with people. I'll make a post on Twitter or wherever, Instagram or whatever, and try to talk with people about it, because like you were saying, it's like it's been long enough now. Like, I can be alone, I cope with it fine, but it still stinks, and it's still something that's nice to have comforting words from people and whatever, or even just a distraction. Just like, hey, I just want to laugh, or whatever. So
the second one is engage in the familiar. Troubling year marks can shake our sense of normalcy and make a person feel like they are on an emotional roller coaster. Because anniversaries can disrupt your daily life, trying to keep a routine can be helpful. That is, try and create some space in your day or day surrounding the anniversary for the familiar. Carving out calm amidst what can feel like chaos can help buffer against the roller coaster effect. Seeking out familiar places, schedules, and people can be soothing and comforting.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of the reasons why I love being part of recovery groups, is because they tend to do things together at times where a lot of people, it is difficult, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Halloween parties, all that kind of stuff. It's one place where people used to go out and get hammered and drunk, but the other thing is that it's a time of year where someone that is trying to recover, from drugs or alcohol, it could be a very lonely time, because that time used to be occupied by some, they knew what they did, right? And to show people that are new to any sort of recovery that, other people can go out and do the same things, celebrate, all that kind of stuff without drugs and alcohol, is a really important thing. And I think, like even Super Bowl parties and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I really love that. There's one thing I love about being part of a group is because it allows people that maybe not in their comfort zone to go do something that just feels kind of normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
you said, especially this time of year, because pretty much most of the parties a lot of people attend, there's, like if you're a recovering, alcoholic especially, or something, or whatever it is, whether you have food issues or whatever, it's like this is a time for so much consumption of things that this can be really difficult for a lot of those kind of triggers. So it is, like you said, being part of a group like that to help others and show them, like, hey, this is possible, you can do this is, and to just help them, if nothing else, just be that guiding hand, influence, whatever you want to call it, to maybe make sure that, try to help them make sure they don't fall into a pit they didn't want to fall into. That's great.
The routine is so important. I mean, I use it constantly. It's one of the tools in my toolbox that I always resort back to, because if you can almost put yourself on autopilot and just say, okay, I do this, I do this, I do this, and I do this, and you can kind of take the pressure off of yourself to have to focus on doing something new, something, anything different outside the norm. If you can free yourself up so that you're doing just the routine stuff, it helps to just, if your mind drifts elsewhere or you're not quite as focused, you can still accomplish things, you can still feel productive, you can still feel a part of things with minimal effort, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
So the third item is honor your story. Your story about you is important. We are hardwired for story. We even live in story. Journalist Michelle Weldon notes, we all lead lives worthy of preservation. Our stories need to be told. If to no one else, then only to ourselves. You may feel tempted to try and avoid the difficult parts of your life stories, such as traumatic anniversaries. However, I would encourage you to look for ways to remember and honor your whole story. It's important to learn how to preserve your entire life experience, including the ups and the downs. Yeah, and I think
that helps a lot.
For myself, it's about sharing my story of recovery. When asked, and I even talk about the not so good things.
Yeah.
I will be upfront about the parts. I will do it here. I will always do it because I look at where I am today, and those things are all a part of my journey. I learned something from them.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, and it makes me who I am right now.
Well, and it also doesn't, these journeys, whether it's, recovery from addiction or it's mental health issues or whatever it is like, there's help out there. There's people who are doing a lot better, but it's hard and it's not always roses and sunshine, and I've always been one that like you were saying, it's like, I want someone to tell me that. I don't want someone to pretend that it's going to be super easy and, oh, we got this. And, I want them to say, hey, this is work. Like, if you're not ready to do some work on yourself, like, this isn't going to work as well. So I think that's a big step to truly helping someone. I know some people, when people first start something, they kind of want, kind of put it off a little bit. It's like, no, it's tell them like we do on here. It's like, we've been dealing with these things that the three of us have been dealing with, and every day there's things we're still dealing with, and that's okay, and the goal is, like, for me, like I talked to my therapist, my goal is to just not feel like I'm receding, like I just want to feel like I'm not sliding backwards,
The next one is more towards the large events, is limit media exposure. And if your challenging year mark does have a news angle or was something that was public, that it just goes on to recommend not necessarily try not to have too much media exposure. And you're better off talking to people, or if you do, is to, discuss it with somebody else to have, you get the social support. And it's also, or talk to other people that were also involved rather than just sitting by yourself and taking in images and news clippings and that kind of thing is basically what it talked about. But I like the next one the most, is do something for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Helping others is good for fostering resilience. Research has found assisting someone else in need is an effective way for finding meaning and purpose in your own struggle. Dr. Daryl Von Tongeren, there's a name, a social psychologist at Hope College, notes that helping others fosters a sense of meaning, purpose, and even feelings of happiness. Similarly, Santa Clara University clinical psychologist Dr. Thomas Plant writes, in a nutshell, if you want to cope better with stress, serve others. Stress management and resilience can be enhanced by connecting with others in need. And that is a huge part of the groups that I'm with, is about service and being of service to others. And there's no better way to get out of your own head than to go help somebody else.
Yeah, I've heard that recommended.
Go do some volunteer work. Do anything. It's like, take that day and take that energy and turn it into a positive experience for somebody else that may not even know you.
Yeah.
Which is even better.
Yeah. I've heard that recommended by so many, things that I've read. I've had therapists say it to me. I've, heard people on podcasts talk about how that's what they do. And it's really helped them when they're, having an off day, is to try to do something nice for somebody else, basically. And, because there's no harm in doing something nice for somebody else. And in the end, you get something out of it a little bit too. Yep. Even if it's a temporary, even if you
just a reprieve.
Yeah. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes that's great, and, so yeah, that's a big one. Like you said, I've heard a lot of people in, recovery say stuff like that too, is that it's, because it does, it really, it helps people. That's why they tell a lot of people with depression to go volunteer, as a way of, finding purpose, feeling useful to get over the, some of the feelings of it. So yeah, that's a good one. I mean, that's just good for anything. You don't even have to suffer or deal with anything. That's just a good tip.
Well, and it can become a social support and a familiar in that on that anniversary, you can make it a tradition now, a new tradition to either go volunteer somewhere or do some sort of just anonymous work for people or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is create a new tradition, make something familiar where you take the day that probably, wasn't very productive before and make it something really, really cool for the future.
That's a really good idea. Yeah.
So one thing I did want to mention before we go too far past it is having to do with the media. I know music is a comfort for a lot of people, and it can absolutely be an amazing tool to be used. But I just want to caution, along with the whole media and oversaturating yourself with media, same thing with music. Music, you can be isolating, and music can also be
trigger.
Yeah, can be a trigger, can reopen those wounds, could help keep those wounds open. I mean, there's music that we listen to make ourselves cry, even in the best of times. So make sure you're just very cognizant of your choices. And if you're going to listen to music, maybe listen to it with friends. Same thing with the whole media. It kind of goes hand in hand. Just make sure that if you're watching TV or you're listening to this music, that you're just doing it very consciously.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a great tip.
Mm.
So the next one is find comfort in your beliefs. Seeking refuge in our beliefs can help you weather life's storms. Several studies have found that faith can help provide a significant buffer against common negative psychological consequences following disasters and trauma. Deepening your connection with the sacred can help you find comfort and ease fears about living in a disaster-filled world. I love this idea of calling faith and belief just connecting with something sacred.
Yeah.
I love those ways of using language to be, not flat, it's not religion. It's whatever is sacred to you.
Yeah.
I love that. It has been, for me, one of the most powerful tools that I put to use is the idea of having a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
I can't always be out in the middle of the woods where I can't help but feel beauty, or standing on the ocean, or up on a mountaintop. That is always a place where I feel connected to, spirit, something sacred, that kind of stuff. I have to be able to connect to it when I can't be around those things. And that's the inside job. That's the part of Buddhism that I love, is that the idea of that it is within us. It is something that if we seek it, it will be there for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been so important to me. And I can't help but encourage people to find something sacred to you that you can dive into.
Mm-hmm.
It just something that to take the me out of the day, that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking even something as simple as like meditating.
Exactly.
Really can, because it can be a distraction anyway, but it's a great exercise in trying to get away from me. Even though you're focusing on yourself, you're focusing more on the present and what you're experiencing right now and things like that, instead of reliving other things, the training of, like I had mentioned earlier, letting thoughts just come and go like the breezes do, if you are standing outside. Really quick too, when you mentioned about nature and whatnot, that's actually another really good tip. I don't know if they have that in here or not, but I've read various stuff that talks about for depression and different things, that people's moods tend to improve when they are in nature and experiencing nature. And it doesn't have to be anything, like you don't have to go climb a mountain. You know, he's like a walk in the park, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, one thing that on my Thursday night meeting, a reading was shared where it says that we're pretty sure that God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. And okay, that sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really does. That you know, the great bearded dude in the sky is sitting on top of his throne in a cloud wants you to be happy, joyous, and free.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. You know, but when I finally thought about it, and I went, oh, my natural state is to be happy, joyous, and free. That's what that phrase is telling me. That how I should feel. And if I don't feel that way, then why don't I feel that way? What is causing me not to feel happy, joyous, and free?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's usually me.
Yeah.
If that's supposed
true.
to be my, like, right? If I believe that this is how I'm supposed to be, that somewhere deep inside of me that I'm supposed to have joy in life and feel, you know, free to be myself and have some happiness, that then what's getting in the way? And it's usually my attitude.
It's true. Yeah. Or like,
so that's
your thoughts or whatever it is. So that's the clutter.
Exactly. It is the itty bitty committee running in my head. You
Yeah.
know, all those things.
Yeah.
And the last item on here is get professional help if needed. Here are a few signs you would benefit from additional professional support. You can't shake the distressing thoughts and emotions brought back by the year mark. The distress triggered by the year mark starts to interfere with your everyday life. If you notice others are encouraging you to seek professional help, this too may be a good indicator that you should reach out to a professional, which I freaking love.
Wow, yeah.
It's like, if your friends tell you maybe you need to see a therapist, maybe you should go see a therapist. Because it's funny, because, like, seriously, as a drunk, it's like, maybe you should stop drinking.
Yeah, right.
What do you know?
Yeah. Hey, maybe you should go see a therapist. I don't need one. I'm good. Yeah.
I'm good, but it just made me laugh.
Yeah.
But I think it's a pretty good indicator if people tell you, you know, so.
Yeah.
And remember, if you find yourself thinking about harming yourself or someone else, then please call a mental health hotline or 911 right away.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's our topic.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, that's some incredibly good points. Definitely things we want to keep in mind. And, you know, remember we're coming up on Christmas, you know, the holidays. It's a difficult time for so many people for so many different reasons. Mm-hmm. So just keep these things in mind. If you're struggling and you need help, make sure you get the help that you need. Make sure you reach out and speak out and do what you need to do for help.
And there's sort of a place where there are post meetings or recoveries happening, and most of them do events. Most of them they do things. They do New Year's where they host meetings. Everybody's invited to those. It's not just for, you know, alcoholics or you know addicts or whatever that, you know, suffer from codependency, overeating, anything like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome to these events, and if you're feeling alone, it's a great place to go meet some people. Mm-hmm. It's you know, open-minded people that practice these things in their daily life every day. And no, it's not easy to go walk into a room full of strangers. But if I could think of one place to tell people that if you go in there and introduce yourself, someone's going to talk to you, someone's going to be interested in you, and someone's going to be, you know, want a story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, that there is that, you know, there is a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of libraries hold different groups, like even that, you know, like
hospitals.
I was gonna say, like, you know, if you're feeling lonely or whatever, it's like, you know, maybe even look at your libraries for like a book club or, you know, just whatever it is, just to kind of get yourself into a social setting for a little bit. Especially if you are, if you're a recovering addict, of course, don't go, maybe skip, bar mixers and what have you, but, because there are a lot of those that, that happen around these times of years. A lot of places do parties and whatever, but, and a lot of them, it's amazing from the ones we've been to at breweries and stuff too, it's amazing how many times, like, you can go in there and you will just strike up a conversation with somebody because you're there kind of over the same things a little bit, so you, if nothing else, you have that in common, like whether it's a book club, whether you're at a brewery for a beer tasting or a wine tasting at another place or whatever it ends up being, if you're meeting with other people over a common thing, that can always be the icebreaker because you're all there for that reason. So I've used that a few times to help me with that because I'm terrible at breaking the ice. So, that is one thing to keep in mind. And one last thing for me is the, what you mentioned, Henno, about the one in the article about, maybe seek therapy around the dates that are going to be problematic for you. And I've been pretty vocal on here about how I've done that. Like, before we went to Chicago that time, I made sure I had a therapy thing scheduled. Usually before the holidays, I have one scheduled just to keep me, in the right frame of mind through times that I know get nutty and it gets difficult to get back into your, to get out of your own head, I should say, so definitely don't discount that. I do that again around the time, if my dad's, when it gets closer to the anniversary of the day my dad died, I usually will schedule a therapy session that week if possible, or at least somewhat right before that to kind of help me with that. Even though it's been a long time, I'm still doing it as maintenance, just to make sure that I stay on the right, so that I have a good frame of mind dealing with it, just to make sure I don't do something I don't want to do, So definitely don't discount that.
Absolutely. Well, are we good, guys?
Yep.
Awesome. Then, you know what time it is, folks. If you'd like to continue the conversation, and you do, you can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me direct. Best way is through Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with the G. Or you can also reach me on my other account, Witsky Ditz. If you want to hear more from me, you can also hear me on Shake the Sheets, which is a pop culture talk podcast that I do with my co-host Nate. And you can find that at shakethesheets.com. And Henno, how can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. You can find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter, and Facebook Messenger. And if you want to check out my other podcast, the Movie and the Needle podcast, what are we going to be recording this week? Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the movie Grosse Pointe Blank.
Oh, nice.
And that'll be released on Monday. That should be fun. I can't even tell you the last time I saw that movie.
Yeah, same here. I wonder how that holds up, on a rewatch. I haven't watched it in so long now.
Yeah, and we're going to have Sarah Netzley joining us, who was on our rom-com episode. And she's
cool.
She's a hoot.
She was good. Yeah, I liked her on there. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, definitely go check that out. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so make sure you have your earbuds in or, listening to it where you're not going to get yourself put in timeout. You can also find this show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, and I post when new episodes go up on there. We're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com, and the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. So go check those out and maybe find some other shows that you enjoy. And, Yeah, well, I guess, we've kind of already said it this week, but, make sure, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of ways to get help out there. There's therapists, there's groups, there's hotlines, there's just all sorts of different ways. And if you have anxiety, a lot of them are anonymous, so you don't have to, some of them you can even do, like there's the one you can do even via text. No one ever even sees you, like they don't know who you are, that kind of stuff. So, please reach out if you need some help, or, definitely, call a friend if you're having a rough time, and, try not to be by yourself. And, normally I also talk about, make sure also reach out to people and, make sure, especially if a friend is having a difficult time or whatever, see if, maybe offer, I saw this on the news. I thought it was a good idea. They mentioned, like, if somebody in your life is having a difficult time this time of year or whatever, well, any time of year, but, they're doing it because of this time of year, is maybe just offer to do something for them. Like, offer to make dinner for them or something to help them out. If they're, like they're having trouble just getting out of bed that day or something, you just maybe, hey, let's, I'll bring over dinner or something like that, or I'll make dinner, let's watch a movie, whatever it ends up being, Anyway, so, just like we always say, try to do something nice when you can. I don't even want to say this, especially this time of year, because I'm really just more about, like, just in general, just when you can be nice, be nice. I was in a parking lot the other night at night, and an older woman was walking out to her car, and there was a guy out there that was just kind of staring at her. He was just standing out there and just staring at her, and she wasn't walking toward him. Like, he was not with her. Like, she was walking toward her car, and I just stood out there waiting, because I was like, I'm going to make sure this lady gets to her car okay. And I started kind of walking, not toward her, but in that direction to where, like, if that guy started moving toward her, being out there, maybe he would think twice because there's a person right there, kind of a thing, And she got in her car and drove away, and the guy still was out there, and I was like, So I went inside, and I mentioned it to the security guard in the store, and I said, I don't know, maybe he's lost, or he, can't find his car, because it's a big parking lot, it's at night, so many cars look similar, it's easy to lose your car in a parking lot. And I told him, I was like, I'm just getting weird vibes off the guy, though, and, and I was like, and I'm not going to approach somebody like that, because I don't know what I might walk into, but if you see somebody who needs some help, maybe, help them out. I did that at the post office today, too. There's a guy that he was trying to put, they have the slot where you can put the pre-stamped stuff, and he just could not, he was trying to hold a bag, and he had a box.
Get it in there.
He needed another hand, so I was like, and I was like, I was like, here, hand me the letters, and he handed them to me, and I put them in there for him, and then he was able to cope, and he's like, thank you so much, and I was like, not a problem, I was like, I'm standing here anyway. Literally, it took me an additional minute out of my life, so, just even little stuff like that, because, it's amazing how if someone can diffuse one little frustration, you never know what avalanche that may stop, because that could set off to where something goes wrong there, then something else happens later, and next thing you know, he's like, geez, nothing's going right today, and just, so let's just all try to be nicer to one another, and, whenever we can.
Absolutely. And with that, everybody, go out there, have the best week you could possibly make for yourself, and don't forget, wiggle your toes.